Are we ready to let everyone in or not yet?
We're about to go live.
I feel like we're gonna wait a few minutes, right?
Yeah.
Maybe wait like 32 or 31.
Okay, we're live on Facebook, so I will let everyone in now. Hello, everyone. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes for some more people to join, and then we'll get started.
Welcome, everyone. Looks like we have a good number of people with us tonight, and we are excited to get this program started. For any of you who may not have registered ahead of time, you can catch us on Facebook. We are live streaming this currently. It's just a few housekeeping rules before we get started. Please remain muted unless you are asked to speak. Turn your cameras on out of courtesy for the speaker and place any questions and comments in the comment box. My name is Dr. Uzma Syed, and I am the founder and CEO of Alinus. Welcome to our event. I would like to thank you all for being here, and I want to start off by thanking our marvelous mentors, some of them who are here with us tonight. First of all, I'd like to recognize Mr. Rizwan Qureshi, who is the Senior Vice President of HAB Bank. Senator Jim Gaughran, who is the State Senator for the 5th District, covering the North Shore of Long Island. A practicing attorney, he has decades of experiences as a public official serving the people of Long Island. Senator Kevin Thomas, who is a New York State Senator representing the 6th Senate District in Nassau County. He was elected in 2018, becoming the first Indian American to serve in the Empire State Senate. Prior to his election, he worked as an attorney and appointee of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights to the New York State Advisory Committee. Legislator Arnie Drucker, Nassau County Legislator for the 16th Legislative District. He serves on 5 legislative committees: Finance, Government Services and Operations, Planning, Development and the Environment, Public Works and Park, and Health and Social Services. Legislator Drucker is an active community member and serves on several boards and has his own law practice, which he has owned and operated since 1982. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. We have a great event for you this evening, an event that is for our youth and led by our youth. Please welcome the Alignus ambassadors, who are the student voices of our organization.
Hi, my name is Ariane.
Hi, I'm Nora.
Hi, my name is Jake.
Hi, I'm Summer.
Hi, I'm Kelly.
Hi, I'm Anissa.
Hi, I'm Mahek.
So welcome to the Alignus Advocacy for Our Youth program. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. And just to give you a quick overview of tonight's program, we're going to start off by giving you a quick introduction to Alignus and some of our Alignus student experiences. And following the intro, if time allows, Dr. Syed, an infectious disease specialist and the chair of COVID-19 task force of several Long Island hospitals, will be hosting a brief Q&A regarding COVID and any questions you might have. After this Q&A, U.S. Congresswoman Meng will be giving tonight's keynote address regarding her proposed legislation for reducing the voting age from 18 to 16. Following Meng's address, we will have a moderated Q&A session with your previously submitted questions, and there will also be an opportunity to ask more questions live in the chat.
So Alignus is a 501c3 organization focused on career development for high school students via mentorship, which aims to bridge the classroom to the real world. All of Alignus's mentors are leaders in their respective industry and have a wealth of knowledge and experience that they share with students on a truly individual level. These mentors represent a wide range of industries, including medicine, law, dentistry, journalism, government, finance, and business. Alignus also provides many workshops, including one on resume writing, public speaking, as well as hosting panel discussions with experts in a variety of fields. Among other things, Alignus students walk away from the program learning about the path their mentor took to get to where he or she is, what it's like to actually do their job, and then also gain professional skills necessary for the role. Many Alignus students have had the opportunity to return to the program and pair off with another mentor in a different field. Students can gain exposure to multiple industries and really figure out what career they'd like to pursue.
So now I'm going to put a link in the chat where you guys can all go check out our Alignus promotional video so you can gain even more information about exactly what Alignus is. However, there is so much more to Alignus than just that video, and we want to have some real students here who can actually talk about their experiences and what they've done with Alignus and why they love Alignus so much. So first, with my experience, I came into Alignus already knowing what I wanted to do as my career. I have known for a while that I wanted to work in computer science, I wanted to be a programmer, but I never really knew how to do it. And I always would sit in school and sit in my classes and think to myself that this is really interesting, but how does it work in the real world? How can I actually make money from this? And that is what Alignus provided for me. When I never really knew what my industry could look like and what the jobs that I could have would actually look like in the real world, Alignus provided that bridge for me and allowed me to really see that. Both of the mentors that I have had such cool jobs and did such amazing things that I was really inspired by. And it actually ended up that I'm probably planning on working in the exact same industry as both of my mentors, which is financial technology. And so having that opportunity to really explore their industries and really understand the applications of computer science in the real world was so useful for me. And I think it could be really useful for everyone else as well, especially high school students like ourselves. And even though you're now going to hear from some people who have had more negative experiences where they haven't really loved the job that they were exploring, those experiences are still positives because it allowed them to really understand what industries look like, what the real world looks like, and what jobs they should be pursuing. So now we're going to have Ariane continue and speak about her experience, which was a little bit different from mine, but still really important to hear.
So in contrast to Jake, I really did not know what I wanted to do and was stuck between several fields. As someone who is involved in things like Model Congress and debate, I was thinking about becoming a lawyer. So in my first year of Alignus, I was paired with a mentor named Chris Arsberger, who was an attorney. So throughout my mentorship, we discussed things like different cases. I sat in with his clients and I got to see what his daily work life was like. And Chris was a great mentor, but by the end of the 20 hours, I realized that I did not want to go into law. This realization really helped me narrow down what I wanted to study in college, and now I'm pretty set on going into the medical field. So overall, Align-Us was a really helpful experience, helping me figure out what I want to do in the future, saving me a lot of time and money. So next up, we have Mehek, another student ambassador, who will also talk about her experience.
Hi, my name is Mehek Chaudhary, and I'm currently an ambassador for Align-Us. I have been a part of this mentorship, a part of Align-Us for about a year now. My first mentorship was with Dr. Albaz, a pediatric dentist. This mentorship was truly wonderful and was a great learning experience for me because I was able to learn about the hard work and dedication that a dentist puts into their job. Along with this, I was taught how to read x-rays about different treatment methods, detrimental effects of a lack of treatment, and much more. Align-Us also offers many programs which helped me through life-changing decisions such as college essays and college applications. Without Align-Us, I feel that I would have been very confused and lost in this very important part of life.
Hi, my name is Summer, and I joined Align-Us during my sophomore year. Align-Us has been extremely helpful for me. I've always loved writing, and so I was paired with a journalist. I learned how to write a pitch, how to plan a book, and I learned the day-to-day tasks of a freelancer, and I even got to visit the Newsday headquarters. It was a really valuable experience to me in many ways, such as I learned the proper ways of conduct in a professional setting. I met tons of new people and made valuable connections. And it was also a great experience to add to my resume and talk about in my college essay or interview. Like Ariane, even though I didn't particularly like my mentorship, it helped me in the way that I can now cross journalism off my list of potential careers, saving me a lot of stress in the long run. So Align-Us is an incredible tool in this way, and I think it is really beneficial to any student, whether they know what they want to do or not. And a field that I thought I might want to go into was really not a fit for me after my mentorship. And without Align-Us, this would not have been clear to me. And I can't emphasize how much of a help it has been to me. And I would really recommend that every student participate in the program.
Hi, my name is Kelly, and I'm a rising junior. And I had a very similar experience with Align-Us to Ariane and Summer. I joined Align-Us my freshman year of high school, and I was expecting to get matched in business or finance, but I ended up getting matched in my fifth to last choice, an orthodontist named Dr. Doug Palaganis. And don't get me wrong, I love Dr. Doug. He was an amazing mentor, right? But I wasn't a fan of seeing the insides of someone's mouth for 20 hours. So going into the mentorship, I told him that, and he was still able to teach me just as much as a mentorship in the field that I wanted to go to can. And from hours of being in his office, I was able to learn that having a relationship with your customers or patients is incredibly important. For example, Dr. Doug talked to his patients like they were his best friends, he knew them for years, knew everything about his patients too. His patients' dogs or cousins or dogs' cousins. And that was the reason why he was so successful. And his patients always came back. I remember a particular mom, she moved 30 minutes away from his office, but still chose to drive back 30 minutes to get to his office only because she believed that he was the best orthodontist around. And working with Dr. Doug, I totally get why she drove that 30 minutes, because he was able to connect with his patients, reassure them. And those are the very skills I start to have and build a connection with my customers in the future when I have my own business, just like Dr. Doug. So I would like to thank Align-Us for giving me that opportunity and Dr. Doug for that valuable lesson.
Hi, I'm Anissa, and I'm an Align-Us student ambassador as well. I started this program at the beginning of my junior year. I'm now a rising senior, and my first mentor I was paired with was Leslie, and she is she started a nonprofit for girls in power. And that's something that I've always been interested in, and I found it really interesting and helpful to learn how someone started a nonprofit as someone, like I've wanted to start one myself as well. So that really like helped me, and like it guided me along the way. And then I'm with my second mentor was law. That's what I originally wanted to do. But like after working with her, I realized like it wasn't really a good fit for me. And it helped me guide me a lot in what I want to do when I'm older and what I want to do in college.
So next, we are going to hear from some other students who have also really taken advantage of their experience with Align-Us and have something to share about Align-Us that hasn't been said yet. So first, we are going to have Aram Ahmed. I will unmute her. Okay, Aram, so whenever you're ready.
Hi, so during the fall semester, I got paired up with a history professor at Adelphi University. Her name was Sarah El-Tabib, and she was the perfect mentor for me because I want to major in history when I go to college, and I also want to become either a professor or an elementary school teacher when I later on in life. So it was great having her as a mentor because she took me to her classes. She showed me how her classes worked, how she graded papers, how she like weighed things like participation. Not only did she do that, but she also told me that I didn't have to limit myself to one major when I go off to college. I can do a variety of different things and go into any field I wanted to and still become a professor or a teacher later on. And not only did she help me with like my future career path, but she also gave me advice on just general. So she was like a life mentor for me. She also helped me during a really stressful time, which was junior year, because I was so stressed. It's the hardest year of high school. So she helped me get through that too. So it was a really great experience for me.
Next, we're going to be hearing from Eric Liang. So Eric, I will ask you to unmute now, and whenever you're ready.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Liang, and I'm a rising senior at Southside High School. I had joined Align-Us at the beginning of my junior year, and I really haven't turned back since. So first, I'd like to thank Dr. Isma Saeed and everyone that helps run this organization, including my amazing mentors, Hassan Sheikh, Farah Mazawala, and Safiya Sitar. And a special shout out to my good friend, Arian Lee, for introducing me to this program. Through my time at Align-Us, it really has been short, but I truly believe that it did offer me a wealth of resources in my search for a career path. What surprised me about Align-Us was just how flexible it was. For high school students, it's always very difficult to seek out opportunities and connections, which is where Align-Us really acted as a bridge connecting us. The scope of the 13 fields that they offer is truly astounding, from journalism to business to medicine. Particularly what I found the most impactful was that when matched with a mentor, the whole experience is exactly what you make of it. The meetings were very flexible, with a very realistic minimum number of hours required. And at the same time, mentors were very keen to center the discussions around our own topics of interest. For some context, I'm interested in pursuing finance in the future. Thus, my first mentor, Hassan Sheikh, who is an associate director of financial reporting at AIG, was an exciting first experience. I learned about the various career paths for a finance major and his own story of how he got to where he is. And I think that really was very impactful for me, as it really just taught me the whole process. It gave me a look from start to finish of what it could be. And for my next experience, it was with Farah Mazawala, who's actually the executive director of the NOSC Office of Asian American Affairs. And it was a very different dynamic with a more hands-on work, and it really taught me about social impact and community building, which I'm really interested in. And even though it wasn't business, it was still very impactful to me in that way. I attended various county events and I helped them photograph things. I even had conversations with the county executive, and in the end, this mentorship really created opportunity for me, as I'm now an intern at the office, showing just how far Align-Us can take me. Then I had my next mentor was Safiya Sitar, an entrepreneur and business and leadership coach. Through her, it was then yet another, a different area where I learned about branding and networking and the more relationship side of being a professional. Beyond just finances, it's about building relationships and marketing. And so through this, like, a problem I always found was the disconnect between school and careers. More time than not, we aren't taught professional skills and how to apply our skills into a professional setting. And this is where I believe Align-Us really is doing that for me. It was something where I was able to grow as a professional in a way that was flexible while exposing me to unforgettable conversations. And I'd say out of all this, in the end, my only regret is that I didn't join sooner. Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you, Eric, for that, for sharing your experience and for the shout out. And so now that we've gone through some student experiences, we're going to have Dr. Syed, who's a COVID specialist, answer a few questions that are on everyone's minds. And while we go through the first few questions, we would love for you guys to answer the poll about COVID that we were going to send out soon. And also, if anyone has any of their own questions for Dr. Syed, feel free to message them privately to me through the chat so I can relay them for you. So the first question that we have is, currently, many students are wondering whether or not schools are going to reopen in the fall. So what's your opinion on this issue?
All right, what a great question. And thank you so much, first of all, to all of the students that just gave their personal experiences. Really, you know, this program is for you. It's about you, it's for you. And, you know, that's really the point of it. The mentors that are part of our program are selfless, and, you know, it's a growth for everybody that's involved. So I'm so glad to have everybody in this program joining us even this evening. The poll is live now, so if everybody wants to participate on those questions, we will be able to see the results of that shortly. So schools and, you know, reopening during COVID, you know, obviously everything has been put on hold. Our lives have sort of, you know, come to a standstill with the start of this pandemic, and it's a global pandemic of tremendous scale. And, you know, all of you have had to go through virtual learning, you know, during this time. And, you know, we're still sort of in a phase where we don't know what the future holds. In the Northeast and New York specifically, you know, we went through really difficult, challenging times. We were hit the hardest. We were the epicenter. We were hit first. And we had, you know, a lot of people that unfortunately were very sick from this illness, and, you know, a lot of people in the hospitals. And I personally was on the front lines, and I saw, you know, tremendous amount of illness and mortality from this. And, you know, so because of our, you know, strict protocol that we had in place, and people really sheltering in place and everybody doing the right thing, we are now at a point where our numbers are significantly less, where we have about 1% in our community, which is, you know, significantly less compared to what's happening throughout the rest of the nation. So specifically for when you look about from an epidemiologic standpoint, from an infectious disease, you know, you have to look at the area that you're in and, you know, what's happening in that particular area. And that has to dictate very specifically, you know, what's going to happen. Are you going to, is it safe enough to reopen or not? So our area has shown significant decline. And if, you know, we continue to stay this way, again, that all is going to come from our efforts. You know, it's going to, our behavior is going to dictate all of that. And Governor Cuomo has given some recommendations for that, more so that, you know, go along with what infectious disease specialists recommend, is, you know, having a very low level community transmission before you can put, you know, plans in place to really, you know, have a safe reopening. And there's going to be a lot of things that have to be put into place before, you know, we can get there. And, you know, everything has to be done very, you know, it's a very calculated, very, you know, systematic approach to really have a safe transition. And doing that, you know, knowing so that there will be, you know, things that will happen that may be out of our control, but at least we know how to deal with that. So it's not a one size fits all by any means. And, you know, we are in a particular situation where right now our numbers are looking good. That could change at any point. And for that reason, Governor Cuomo has said that he has given a specific date in August where he wants to look at the community transmission and then reassess. So September is still a little bit far, but, you know, we'll see. It's, you know, a day-to-day kind of basis. And, you know, it's really a collective thing based on all of our behaviors, that we continue to do the right thing, you know, social distancing, hand hygiene, mask wearing, and, you know, and we can really prevent further transmission of this virus.
Thank you. So this is a question that I actually have myself, and I'm sure other people have it too. So is it safe to be around friends without masks on if you're in a private area without like a risk of exposure to the public?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And, you know, I've seen this, you know, fairly commonly, especially in New York, especially in Long Island. I think what people need to remember, you know, although we have come to a good place right now, you know, we've done remarkably, and our transmission of the virus is significantly less, but that doesn't mean that the virus has really gone away. So you really have to just kind of assume that the virus is there, it's around us. And we know it's very contagious, and we know people that don't have symptoms, even up to 40% of people that don't have any symptoms can be infected with the virus, and that means that they can still transmit it. And something as simple as talking can still transmit the virus. So even though, you may be with somebody and you think you're in a secluded area, you have to assume that anybody you come into contact with could have the virus. They may not even know it. They could have no symptoms. They could be pre-symptomatic, meaning that maybe in a day or two they'll develop symptoms. So if you cannot maintain, 6 feet of distance at all times, which is very difficult, because, when you're socializing, there may be instances where, you might come closer, this and that, and it's just human nature. It's really advisable that you should really wear a mask at all times. Masks have been proven to work. We know that they work. We know they prevent a significant amount of transmission of the virus. So, the things that we know work, we have to keep doing until we have a vaccine that's preventative or a medication that's curative. These are the things that we know work.
So I saw that Congresswoman Meng has entered the chat, so I'll transition to Samar to intro her.
Perfect. Right just before that, if we can just take a quick minute to, I know we have our legislator, Drucker, and I don't know if Senator Thomas has come on, Senator Gaughran, and we have our mentor, Rizwan Qureshi, as well. If everyone just wants to take a few minutes to say hello quickly before we do a formal intro to Congresswoman Meng. Legislator Drucker, we can start with you.
Uzma, I can't tell you how proud I am of the work that you do, and just seeing the participation and the passion that you have instilled in these ambassadors is so gratifying to me. I'm seeing in front of my face the future leaders of this country in many, many different industries, and you deserve so much credit for inspiring these kids. And your expertise and the role and the work that you do day in and day out in so many different levels is really proven to be a resource to so many of us, not only in government, but in your community and to the young children that you are influencing now to go on to these successful careers. You have so much to be proud of, and we are so proud to have you in our community. So I'm here to support this Align Us organization, this initiative that you started. Anything I can do to help it flourish, which it is flourishing, and to keep it going, I'm all in. So thank you very much for inviting me. It's an honor for me to be here and watching what you're doing.
Thank you for that. We are honored to have you with us. If we can have Rizwan, would you like to say a few words?
Sure, I'd love to. Uzma, I think I truly echo what Arnie said, and this is a tremendous undertaking that you have done in the last so many years. And my experience, although limited, I started with Ariane. Hi Ariane, how you doing? I hope you're okay. That was one of those wonderful experience that I had spending time with her, telling her what I have learned over the last so many years, my experiences and all that. I think it's just that thought of you telling somebody and then that making some kind of difference in that somebody's life. I think that is tremendous feeling that I got from that experience. And of course, when I started with Maya, and because of COVID, we couldn't do anything beyond I think February, March. But your organization, I think, is one of those truly unique organizations that I have come across in my so many years of community service. That I would, it is my honor, as Arnie said, it is my privilege to be part of this. And I think, hopefully you'll keep me as a mentor in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We are honored to have you as our mentor. I don't know if Senator Thomas has come on. I'm sure he'll be joining us soon, but why don't we do our formal introduction of our keynote speaker.
U.S. Congresswoman Grace Meng is serving her third term in the United States House of Representatives. Grace represents the 6th Congressional District of New York. She is the first Asian American member of Congress from New York State and the only Congress member of Asian descent in the entire Northeast. Grace has passed several pieces of legislation in law, such as protecting public housing residents from insufficient heat, worked to create New York City school holidays through Lunar New Year and Eid, and improve the safety of school buses. And today she will be discussing her proposed legislation regarding the lowering of the voting age.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for that kind introduction. Samar, there you are. Thank you to Dr. Syed and to all our ambassadors and our mentors and volunteers. It's such an honor to be back here with you all again. I first met many of you, I guess in Long Island, maybe it was like a year ago at this point. And I have to tell you, you know, I go to, under normal circumstances, I attend a lot of events. And when I went to the event with all of you last year with Alinus in Long Island, it was my first time, I think, at one of your events. And I was so impressed and so heartened. You know, I walked away, I emailed my entire staff and I told them about the amazing experience I had. And I wish I had more time and resources. I want to help you expand like everywhere. We need to clone all of you. But it's really such an honor to be with you. To my colleagues in government, Legislator Drucker, Senator Gaughran, and Senator Thomas, who I believe are joining us shortly. Thank you for your service as well. You know, I wanted to come and say hello, and you know, there's no question that Uzma can't answer about the coronavirus pandemic. It's very educational to follow her on social media normally, but especially during this coronavirus pandemic, there is so much more, and it's frustrating because we all see how much more and how much better we should be doing. And so I hope that all of you continue to be safe. I represent a district in Queens, New York. Queens and New York, as you all know, has been the epicenter of this pandemic, especially during the months of March and April. You know, I remember my colleagues from all over the country would reach out and ask me, you know, what the heck is going on in Queens? How can we help? What we were witnessing and what we were going through at the time was something that was very foreign to most of my colleagues across the country. And what's sad is that there were many lessons not learned from what we have done in New York and what we needed the federal government to do a better job at. And so now, unfortunately, we are seeing increasing cases across the country. But I bring that up to remind all of you that you don't have to be wealthy. You don't have to have someone with a fancy title or, you know, be in a certain position of power to be able to help people. You've seen big and small ways where people, whether it's in your neighborhoods or your schools or your or workplaces of adults in your life, where they've been able to help people and truly make a difference. You know, I'll tell you, even my own job, you know, I'm a congresswoman, that's my day job. I go to Washington, D.C., I work on important legislation, but when the time of coronavirus came down and the Congress could not act fast enough to help people, our jobs were redefined. And we literally, I spent much of my March and April months trying to get things like masks to help people, whether it's healthcare workers or, you know, subway and bus operators to grocery store workers. And at that point, what was so, you know, we witnessed the reality that sometimes government doesn't have all the answers and sometimes government can't provide all the solutions. And so I tell you that not to be depressing about government, but to remind you of how much power and how much you as individuals, as young people, can bring to the table. I've heard stories from young people who wrote to our office and contacted our office all throughout New York about the amazing work that they were doing to help people who were afflicted or who they wanted to help in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a really interesting time in Congress, even aside from the coronavirus. I'm in Washington, D.C. right now. We're here for this week and next week at the very least, hopefully working to pass more coronavirus relief packages and bills, but also on a very momentous week. You know, this is the week where we commemorated the life of one of my colleagues, Congressman John Lewis. Congressman John Lewis, as you know, wasn't just a congressperson. He was in so many ways to describe it, but a true American hero. And what was really a testament to his life was that when he passed away, it wasn't just Black groups and Black leaders praising him and thanking him. It was leaders from all different communities who had been touched and who had been helped by this man. And so I hope that this is something, you know, my kids got to meet him when they were very young, and I don't think they really knew or appreciated who he was, but it's our job to continue to carry out his vision and what he stood for. And I say that as we, you know, go through coronavirus, you know, we have seen so much hurt throughout this country. In the early months, before coronavirus actually hit us in this country, there were many Asian American communities that were already suffering from a sort of virus of discrimination. You know, you heard a lot of American businesses suffering. People thought that if you ate at a Chinese restaurant, you would catch the coronavirus. And so businesses really suffered. One of the things that Congress is working on, you know, we came up with a resolution to condemn this anti-Asian discrimination. And it was an opportunity, surprisingly, and I'm so grateful for our different communities to work together. So some of the first people to sign on to this resolution and to stand with the Asian American community was our Black Caucus in Congress. It was groups like the NAACP, Black student associations from different college campuses. And I tell you this because you may have, as I have been, having really difficult conversations with people in our own families and in our own circles about tragedies like George Floyd's murder and what it means for the Black and Asian communities to work more closely together on issues like civil rights for everyone. So these are tough conversations. And again, I bring this up because you are in such a powerful and impactful position. Don't ever think that you are too young. Your perspective, your experience here in New York and throughout your formative years, bring to light something to your, you know, people like my parents' generation. I had to explain to someone, for example, you know, who never realized fully that there was segregation and that Black people couldn't drink from, you know, the same water fountains as white people. That's something that they never truly learned about as a kid because they didn't grow up here, right? They didn't necessarily learn American history. And we actually still don't learn enough of a complete and balanced American history. But I say all this because I'm really, you know, you are all, I have learned so much from young people like yourselves, from college age students, high school age students, even my own kids in middle school. Your generation has become sort of like the conscience of our country. You have had to deal with issues that when I was growing up, I didn't have to. I was quite comfortable growing up. The people of America fought hard for civil rights in the early 60s. And I, as someone who grew up in the 70s and 80s and 90s, really benefited from a lot of that. But your generation, whether it's dealing with criminal and social justice, gun safety issues, you know, you are at the forefront of this change that is happening in America, and you are a tremendous and an integral part of the change and the improvements that will happen in this country. And so that's one of the reasons why I had decided to work on legislation, and I'm working on it with Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts, who you may have heard of, to lower the voting age to age 16. This is not an issue that holds very well. People have told me on both sides of the aisle, don't work on it. They tell me that 16-year-olds, for example, their brains aren't fully formed. They have a zillion excuses of why young people should not be allowed to vote. But we know, you all know, that young people participate in our democracy in so many ways. 16-year-olds can hold a job without restriction to hours, pay taxes, they can drive, they can sometimes even be tried as adults in criminal cases. And so I totally believe that we should fully allow young people to vote in this country, and that's why we're working on this legislation. You know, there were movements in past, before you and I were around, from the Vietnam War era, movements that sparked at the time, the 26th Amendment to the students of Parkland demanding gun control. The voice and power of youth activism has undeniably and profoundly impacted cultural and political movements throughout our history. So way back when, the voting age used to be 21, for example. And because of the Vietnam War and the movements that occurred after, the voting age was lowered to age 18. And that's why it is 18 as you see today. And so I say that because this is just yet another example of how important it is for young people to get involved. Another issue that I wanted to bring up really quickly, and I might have mentioned it last time when I spoke in front of you, an issue that was literally brought to my attention by a 7th grader. She wrote a letter to me talking about how people in homeless shelters could not get access to pads and tampons. And I never thought about it because I was always able to afford those products from my parents. And so I looked into this issue and I realized that with the federal grants that homeless shelters receive, they weren't allowed to purchase these products to give to people. And so we worked on it and we got the law changed, and we continued to research and found that there was such a need for more accessibility to these products, whether it was people in the prison system, to people in our local public schools, to working people who were not able to use, for example, their health savings accounts to buy pads and tampons, but they could buy other medical items such as contact lenses and crutches and Band-Aids. And so a lot of the work that you will be involved in, and you may feel the same way growing up as an Asian American, growing up as a woman, oftentimes being in rooms where I just felt so different from everyone. I always felt like I was the odd one out. I never looked like the other people. I didn't have the same family background as other people. And so I say this to you to remind you that it is important for you, and I'm still learning this too, it is important for you to be confident and to know what you bring to the table. Know your value, know your experience and your background, and know what values and how beneficial it could be to any given conversation. That even though you might be different from someone, your story is worthy and your story can really help someone. I was a really shy kid. I tell people, you know, I was the shyest kid ever. I never thought I would go into politics for sure. I never ran for student government. I never even took a political science class. I did everything you're not supposed to do if you want to run for public office. I didn't even like speaking in public. Like I could probably count the number of times I raised my hand during elementary to like high school and college. And so, you know, it's important that you remember you never know where you'll end up, right? So always do your best. Take advantage of you know, every opportunity. and yourself and know your value. And so, I wanted to leave time. I think we have time for a Q&A, but I just wanted to give you examples of those two issues that we've worked on, because it came directly from young people in this country, and to encourage you to share your ideas and your thoughts, because you never know how it could make a difference and improve the lives of people around you. So thank you again for having me. And as always, don't hesitate to use us as a resource.
Thank you so much for sharing all that information. We do have a Q&A session in a couple minutes that we're going to send everyone in questions, and everyone can ask the questions that they have had for you. Before we do that, I just wanted to introduce Senator Jim Gaughran. If you want to come on and say a couple words about the organization, we'd be happy to have you speak.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry, I just had my mask on because somebody was in the office. Well, I'm up in the Senate right now. We're in session, and unfortunately, we're just at ease for a few minutes, and I've got to go back into session. But I see Dr. Syed, and thank you all for all the great work that you're doing, and Congressman Meng, thank you for your leadership. I just did a town hall meeting earlier with my constituents, and one of the big issues we were talking about is what we're going to do moving forward to help us get out of this COVID crisis. And one of the things we need desperately is getting our fair share of money back from the federal government, because New York State has really lost. We don't have the ability to print money, and our economy is really hurting. And that's why I just want to mention it with Congresswoman Meng on the phone, because she has been a leader in really fighting us, fighting for us rather, to make sure that we get what we need, and fighting, with the United States Senate to try to get them to come around, to helping us. And I'm very grateful for all the young people who are involved. I think it is so important that so many young people are now paying attention to what's going on in government, what's going on in politics. Many of the issues that that we have now are issues we've had for a long time, and in many ways, my generation has failed the younger generation, and we're looking forward to you, being much more involved on a continual basis, and becoming the leaders of tomorrow. So when I look forward to seeing so many great things from so many of you. Thank you so much. It's great to see you, Dr. Syed.
Thank you so much for being here and for being a wonderful mentor to our students. I think we have Senator Thomas with us as well. Just a few minutes before we get on to the Q&A. I think he's here somewhere.
He's signing on right now.
Okay, great.
Or should be momentarily.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yep, he's connecting presently.
In the meantime, everyone can feel free to send questions direct in the chat to Kelly if you have any questions for Grace Meng. So you can send those to Kelly in the chat.
Hey, how's my favorite people doing? Am I on mute?
Nope, you're good.
Hi, Senators.
Hi, Uzma. Hey, look, it's my favorite other senator, Senator Gaughran. He's still in the Capitol, it looks like. Oh, and I have Congresswoman Grace Meng here. How's everyone doing?
Hi, Senator Thomas. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you. Is it my time to speak? Is that why I'm on Spotlight? I just came in and I was like, oh, hello, everyone.
We just like looking at you.
Oh, this is so great. Listen, I just came on to say hello. I am a big supporter of Uzma and everything that she does. She does so much. She gives back to the community, and I see a lot of Asian and South Asian faces on this, and I am so glad to see this involvement of making our communities better and engaging our youth. Oh, I'll also see one of my favorite Nassau County legislators, Arnie Drucker, is here as well. So nice to see you.
Hello, Kevin. How are you? Nice to see you.
Oh, thank you. Just here to say hello and thank you for everything that you do here. All right.
Thank you so much for everyone who talked. At this time, we would like to open up to questions from the audience. Use the chat box on your screen to submit questions privately to me, and I will assist in voicing them for you. If you would like to ask Congresswoman Meng or anybody else the questions yourself, use the raise hand option on your screen, and one of the ambassadors will unmute you.
So lots of people have already submitted questions when they RSVP'd for this event, so we will start with some of those questions. So the first question that we have is from Ina. Ina said that dad alumni isn't like, and she is sort of how that you think your life and how that impacts all of our lives, because even though we all don't go to sty visit necessarily, I think generally speaking, a lot of us do sort of live somewhat sheltered lives from a lot of the issues that are going on today, especially the issues that have been brought to the forefront today. And how do you think that we as young people in our community, if we were having the right to vote, how could we make sure that we get informed and sort of are able to break out of that bubble that we might live in as a result of our geographic location?
Sure. I mean, going to a big public high school in the middle of Manhattan was really a culture shock for me. I had grown up in Queens, always gone to relatively small schools. For part of my life, I went to a parochial religious school. And so I've always felt like I had lived somewhat in a bubble. So going to a huge public school, I think our graduating class was like 900 people, really met a lot of people from all walks of life, from all over the city. And some people, they had different family backgrounds, they had different economic backgrounds. And so while I think my teachers would have liked me to say that I learned the most academically during high school, I think what I really appreciated now looking back is what I learned about people, everyday human beings, about friendships. I made a lot of friends in high school, and to this day, some of my closest friends are the ones that I first met in high school. And so even though we may have really different backgrounds, it really helped open my eyes to the diversity throughout New York City, and just learned a lot about how different people are. And so I think that was sort of one of my moments where I came out of my shell a little bit.
And you also mentioned that you started off not really being that into government, not being into student government or anything like that. And so a couple of people were wondering sort of how did you become a congresswoman? What was your career trajectory? And some people were also wondering if you had a fear of public speaking ever, which you mentioned that you already did. So if you want to just elaborate on how you really got into this career and how you sort of became the person that you are today.
Totally. I was really fearful of public speaking. I think, at some point throughout high school and college, I thought about becoming a teacher. I also thought about doing something in the world of public interest. I ended up going to law school. So I didn't think about running for office, but I really liked the idea of either working in government, like working for a government agency, or working for a nonprofit organization of some sort to try to help people around me. I didn't know specifically what that meant. As I got involved a little with the community during law school and after law school, I realized that politics was a really good way, when used correctly, to be able to help people, right? Like, you can write a law and pass a law and instantly, for example, help people across the city or state or country. And so I was really also interested in the fact that whenever I worked at a government agency for internships, I had a lot of internships, that there weren't that many people who looked like me. And so that's where I, first thought about something I mentioned earlier, where, every meeting we had or every gathering I had, oftentimes I was the only minority in the room. Sometimes even more and more as I get older, I'm the only woman in the room. And so often felt like the odd one out. But, it took me a while, but it helped me realize that even though I might be that lone voice, that it is that much more important that my voice and my experiences are part of these conversations and part of the discussions where we're talking about improving policies and legislation. So it didn't necessarily come from a place where I wanted to run for office. I just thought through my internships and just, experiences that, okay, politics and government could really be a great way to help people. And so I kind of just got involved like that.
So the next question we have is from Humera. So Humera, if you want to unmute, I know you had a question about sort of how we can make sure teams are responsible. So you can ask that question and unmute yourself now.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that I think what you're doing is amazing, and I completely stand for everything that you stand for as well. I just had a quick question about your idea of lowering the voting age to 16. So while many youth are involved in politics and will make well thought out decisions, there are also youth who may not take elections seriously and won't vote without thoroughly thinking their decision. This may lead to being a serious problem. So how will you address such an issue?
Okay, no offense to the adults here or adults that I deal with. There are lots of adults who don't necessarily make well thought out decisions and might even vote without full access or fully educating themselves on the candidates or the platforms. Yes, it's an issue. New York specifically needs to work a lot harder to improve our laws and to make sure that more people are involved in this civic process. But whatever the weaknesses are around lack of education and maybe making ill-informed decisions, to me has nothing to do with age. It is something that affects people, whether you are 16 or 60 or anywhere, around those ages. So I just don't believe it. I have literally witnessed in my few years in Congress, young people making such a huge difference. And just because someone older or more experienced might not agree with them doesn't mean that it's the wrong decision or the wrong choice. I do think that it is harder because whether you're young, whether you're a woman, whether you're a minority, people might view us as having less credibility, and sometimes you have to work extra hard to make your case and to prove your point. And that's happened to me a lot. What happens a lot in the adult world sometimes is that we'll share an idea, and then I've literally had an experience where I shared an idea and no one really reacted, and then 10 minutes later an older Caucasian gentleman shared almost this identical idea and people applauded. And so that's happened multiple times, and that could happen to you as well. And that's okay. That just makes us that much stronger if we had to, stand up and to prove what we believe in and why we believe we're on the right side of a certain issue.
Okay, so just confirming, just in terms of time, do you still have time for a couple more questions? Because we have
I can do something at 8:45, but before that is fine.
Yeah, we won't go past then. So Elsie was wondering, and you sort of touched on this a little bit already, but why specifically 16 as opposed to 15, 17, or anything else? And do you feel that making it 16 makes the bill most likely to pass? And like, what do you think about the likelihood of passing the bill in general if it is at 16 like it currently is?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't necessarily pick an age. This was something that some municipalities around the country had already begun working on. Oftentimes that gives a certain idea, a certain momentum. I've read scientific reports. I am not a scientific or health expert, for that by the age of 16, the part of your brain where you make and are able to make informed decisions and judgments, that part of the brain is fully formed. And so, you know, this is sort of just going off of a trend that has already begun around the country, which is why I went with the age 16.
And our next question is something that is definitely, we think, really important for everyone. So do you have any just final thoughts or words of advice for our young audience? Because it's many people who are trying to make their world better and trying to make a difference in our world.
So I will share something that seems so basic, and maybe you are all already good at this already. I remember the first few internships that I had a really difficult time making small talk. So the basic, you know, walking into an office or walking into an elevator and meeting someone who's your supervisor, knowing how to effectively shake their hand, or this is obviously pre-COVID, at some point we'll get back to that, but shaking someone's hand, making eye contact, knowing how to sound confident and informed. It sounds like they're really small actions, but they're really important. Now, my parents were immigrants. They never had the time or really, you know, took the time to explain to me the importance of that and how to shake someone's hand and how to make small talk. And so I would say, you know, take the time to be good at that. And even just basic small talk, right? Like I grew up in a very traditional Chinese household where during dinner time, we were not allowed to talk. I worked in a restaurant, so he wasn't there most nights anyway, but we were not allowed to talk. We had to be silent. We had to eat very quickly to go back to doing our homework. So when you know, I'm not blaming my family for this, but when I got older and I was in like a workplace setting and I had to make small talk, it was terrifying to me, right? I never had to do that really growing up. And so I tell people, you know, every day when you wake up, and I know young people people read stuff off their phones nowadays, but I would say to people, you know, get a newspaper, make sure you know the headlines of the day, make sure you know the top stories of the day. And that's probably really hard to escape from nowadays. You guys probably don't have that problem. My 10-year-old even knows the headlines of the day. But just arm yourself with information daily. So if you are in a situation and someone who could be your potential boss or professor or teacher asks you a question, that you have something to contribute and you have something to say, and it makes you look like you're engaged and you're interested in the world beyond yourself. These are things that are really basic, but I really wish someone had told me this when I was younger and when I, you know, started to do internships and things like that.
So thank you so much for all those answers to all the questions. I know that I'm really appreciative. I know that all our ambassadors, everyone here is really appreciative of everything you had to say. And I know we will be hearing a lot more from you soon, hopefully. So next we will move to Mehek to just sort of close everything off that we've talked about today.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight and participating in this important discussion. We appreciate that people empowered like so many of you here tonight are taking steps to help young people like us have a voice.
Thank you to all the students for joining and showing initiative. You are paving your own road to success. Even though at this time some of you are not old enough to vote, we have strong allies in government like Congresswoman Meng, who is working to make sure your voices are heard. Stay tuned for more programs like these, and make sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts, as well as let us know what you would like to see more of. Our social media links will be in the chat.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and a huge thank you to Congresswoman Grace Meng and all of our wonderful mentors that joined us this evening. We can't thank you enough for all of your selflessness, for your motivation in these truly difficult times for our youth. I really want to thank you all from the bottom of our hearts.
Great job, guys. Thank you.
Bye.